Hey guys, I'm Rocky.
And I am Jeremy Fisher.
We're so glad that you guys, wait, you're not Jeremy.
I am Tyler Heidelberg, Jeremy's younger brother.
They all look alike. I thought it was Jeff at first. Is that funny?
That's funny. It's
funny.
good. It works.
Anyway,
We'll
we're glad that you guys are still meeting with your community groups. We hope that you are having a great night. Today was an incredible Sunday morning at Community Life Church across all 4 campuses. We started a brand new series on Isaiah 53 that is going to lead us into the Easter season. But I wanted to take this opportunity because we are both single guys.
Yes, we are. That
So
is
one
true.
of the things that happens when you're a single guy is that I do this thing where I go on Facebook whenever I'm sick because I just want there to be a history of what happens in case they find my body. But I'll go on Facebook and I'll be like, oh man, I'm really sick. I think I have the flu, which is fine. But then you get all of this ridiculous advice when you do something
Oh,
like
yes,
that.
I bet. I can only imagine.
So some of the things that people tell me all the time is, what is one? Oh, have you put like thieves oil on your feet and put a sock on and somehow that's magically going to cure the flu?
That's hilarious. Yeah, I think for me, one of the things is people are trying to cure my singleness. You know,
yeah.
some people in the church, they want to cure my singleness. And so
How do they do that?
well, they recommend their granddaughters or people to go on dates with, and it's funny.
That's ridiculous. The only reason I bring this up because during the sermon, one of the things that we were talking about today is simply the fact that there's a lot of times that we think that we have this physical need that Christ can fix or that God is supposed to fix, but in reality, there's this other need that goes over all of that that's more important than anything else that we have going on. So like I go on Facebook and I'm like, I'm sick, and people are like, oh, well, have you tried this or have you tried that? But it's never actually meeting my needs.
Right.
And in the 90s, there was this, were you even alive in the 90s?
Barely. 1990 is when
my gosh.
I made it in.
So there was this book called The Greatest Home Cures Book. I don't know if you guys remember that. Some of you are like, oh yeah, I probably ordered that book. And it was just like this list of all of these things that were supposed to cure you of your sicknesses. And I thought it would be fun as we started your conversation today if you were to spend some time thinking about like what is the most ridiculous cure for a problem that you have ever encountered in any conversation ever. And be honest, the more ridiculous, the better. So why don't you guys hit pause and talk about that cure for a few seconds. And we're back. I did that for Casey Coates, just for you, buddy. So there's a lot of difficult things, I think, in this topic because we struggle all the times because it's so difficult to think that the most important thing that Christ fixes in us is this need for salvation, right? Do you ever struggle with those thoughts? Like when you're sick or you're lonely or you're anything like that, do you ever think, oh, well, actually Jesus is the answer to this somehow?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that we struggle with this is a lot of times we get so caught up on the problem. You know, we just asked the ridiculous question about what is one, cure somebody's recommended. And I think sometimes we're so focused on the problem that we miss out on what the actual solution is, which is clearly Jesus.
Right.
And so that kind of takes us out of our train of thought. And so one question I would ask for us to stop and think about in our CGs today is this: what is one problem in your life that Christ could solve that you believe would finally make you happy? And so we want to leave you with that question right now to discuss.
And we're back.
We're back.
How would you answer that question?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. I think, man, I think my natural tendency would say, just worry.
Yeah.
I think I worry a lot, and sometimes I believe if I just didn't struggle with this, and we know that God's called us to not do that. He's given us Philippians 4, 6 through 8, and some other passages to help wrestle with that and to stand in opposition to our worry. But I just believe sometimes, hey, if I didn't have to deal with this, this problem or whatever, my life would be more complete. Or if I didn't have to deal with this issue or this struggle or have to wrestle with it or have to put my faith in Jesus and actually trust him in that circumstance, then everything would be great.
For sure.
But it's based upon the circumstance, not upon the Savior.
And this morning we talked about in Isaiah 53 just the fact that the nation of Israel, we gave like this big long history, the nation of Israel was looking for a savior to come and destroy, at the time it was written, Babylon, and then later on, Rome.
Yeah.
And if it were today, it would be Iran or Palestine. Like they are looking for God to send a Messiah that is going to come, and he's going to reestablish the kingdom of Israel here on earth. And what they got was Jesus. And so when they saw him, he didn't immediately meet the need that they thought that they had. And so they were looking for that destruction. What they thought that their biggest problem was is that they weren't united as a kingdom anymore. And they thought, like Isaiah was prophesying about a king that would come. And then when he came and he didn't immediately meet that need, they missed him.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, even to this day, there are millions of people who are waiting for that Messiah to come and reestablish that kingdom. But as we know, as followers of Christ, that Christ came, but what he ended up being was not a king, but a suffering servant, because there was a bigger issue at hand.
Yeah.
And I think that's the struggle. But we will get caught up in the problem so much. We get caught up in the tertiary, like the surface level things that we struggle with, whether that's poverty or hunger or sadness or all of those things. When you're in them, they feel real. Like they feel like that's the most important thing. And I don't want you guys to think, oh, well, those things aren't important, because they're absolutely important. But one of the things I think about, because I have a history in youth ministry, and you are actually a youth pastor.
That is true. I currently do that. That is correct.
In Sunnyvale?
I believe so,
Yeah,
yes.
awesome.
Yes.
So, but one of the things that's hard is like we take kids on youth trips, and you go there, and the mission is typically some sort of work project. So, like you'll go and paint a house, or you'll rebuild something, or you'll go feed hungry people and things like that. And for me, the trick was always this, right? When we go on a mission trip, we're not trying to go there and build a house because people build a house. No, we go on mission trips because there's a bigger issue going on, right? It doesn't matter if people have food to eat if at the end of their lives they're still going to hell.
Yeah.
That's a harsh reality.
That's hard to say.
How do you ever address that in your youth ministry? Like, how do you keep people focused on what the issue actually is?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, because the reality is that our circumstances throughout our life, they're going to be ever changing. There's going to be times where we're in sickness. There's going to be times where we're healthy. There's times we're going to have everything we need and nothing we need. But the reality is when we go on mission trips, I think the focus is we want to help people see that their greatest need is Jesus.
Right.
We can meet the meal, we can meet the circumstance that they need us to meet, but at the end of the day, if we don't point them and show them that Jesus is their greatest need, I think we're missing the mark.
Absolutely. So here's the problem, right? And I recognize that probably the majority of you, as you're meeting at your community groups, you all went to church this morning, and you're thinking, man, that was a really powerful service this morning, and it all points to Christ. Like this entire season is about pointing to Christ. I wonder, when you think about the people that you are currently trying to pastor or serve, whether that's people in your community who don't have food, or maybe your group is working with a family who is dying, or whatever else is going on, what is the most prevalent need that you see? Are you able to see past just their circumstances and see down to like the true heart of the matter? We definitely want to show people the love of Christ.
Right.
But we don't want to show people the love of Christ because they have this, what they think is the most important thing. We want to show people the love of Christ so that they can be saved.
Right.
Is that a hard truth? I don't know. I'm wondering, like, as I'm sitting here talking to you, I'm wondering how you guys in your group are going to respond to what I just said.
Yeah, I think it is difficult, but I think the thing that helps me be able to solidify saying that is, if we're trying to show people the love of Christ without giving them Christ, well, then how are we showing them the love of Christ? You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And so if it's not rooted in, if it's only rooted in changing their circumstance, we're missing the point of our need for a Savior. And so we got to get to a point where it's us saying that I honestly believe that Christ is the most important thing that they need and will ever need. And so if that's the most important thing that they need, I can help them in their circumstance. I can help them with their situation. But I need to be able to point them to Christ because of that. And that's at the foundation of it.
Yeah, that's incredible. Well, guys, I think that you guys have a lot to talk about. I would love it if you were to spend the rest of your time talking about how you kind of prioritize or approach that problem when you are helping people or serving people. Are you meeting their greatest need? Or even talk about, do you think about the greatest need in your own life? Or are you so overwhelmed by the physical circumstances or the things that are happening outside of here that it's difficult for you to see and think about the fact that Jesus Christ lived and died and rose again so that he could save your soul? And what is the meaning of that? That is a great topic to discuss.
Yeah.
So why don't you guys go ahead and do that? We will see you next week. Thank you for spending time with us.